Hey everybody, welcome back to Web Inspect. I am Timothy Miller, your host, and today we are going to talk about GitHub Pages. I found out about GitHub Pages almost a decade ago when they first kind of came out. And I was super excited and a little bit nervous because honestly, I wondered what the catch was. I actually went on to StackOverflow at the time and I asked the question, hey guys, what is the catch with this GitHub Pages thing? And I got some good answers, I got some good results, but before I talk about that, let's take a step back and let me tell you what GitHub Pages is in case you have never heard of it. So GitHub Pages is, at its base, a super simple, super easy way to host a website for free with all of the power of GitHub and or Microsoft, I suppose, these days, behind your website. Now, this was revolutionary for me when I just started getting into web development because I used shared web hosts. And if you know what a shared web host is, that means you get a small piece of one server for your website. And the thing is, most of these shared web hosts, if you are using your small piece and you use it too much, then they'll just shut it down because they don't want it interfering with any of the other websites that are on the same server. So there were several times when I just started making websites that one of my websites would get a huge spike in traffic because it got on Reddit or something like that, and a whole bunch of new people started coming in. And right when I'm at this spike of getting all this traffic, suddenly my website is shut down and all of that traffic is just wasted. All of the attention that I'm getting was just wasted. And you don't have to worry about that with GitHub Pages because it has a huge powerhouse of servers behind it. It's basically never going to go down. And the fact that you get all of that server redundancy for free is crazy. So that's why 10 years ago when I found out about this, I was like, what's the catch? So I'm going to walk you through today how to get started with GitHub Pages. We're going to take just a very simple HTML website and we're going to host it on GitHub with GitHub Pages. And as we do that, I'll kind of talk about some of the downsides of hosting your websites this way. So that's the plan. And let's turn to the screen here and let's get started. So here's the web page for GitHub Pages. As you can see, it says websites for you and your projects hosted directly from your GitHub repository. And we'll go into what that means in case you don't know shortly. But it really is pretty easy to get started with this, as you'll see. And they have a video here. They also have instructions for getting started with a couple of different types. For today's project, we're going to be creating a project site, and they have a couple different options here. We're not really going to use any of this stuff. They have some kind of advanced functionality where you can theme your site using their pre-built themes. But for now, we're just going to focus on how to get started and worry about the theming and whatnot later. So today I'm going to start with this website, which is a site that I built a few months ago for the client side of my business. I run a company called Web Inspect. We build websites for clients, and that's what this website is for. So it's very simple, very basic. It's got some images, got some copy. It's got an email form, but, and this is key, the email form does not use any backend logic. All it does is it calls an email API, and it takes any text that you put into this form and sends it off to a external API to do the hard work for you. The reason this form being entirely like front-end focused is key is because one of the downsides to using GitHub Pages is that you can have no server-side functionality. So there's no PHP, there's no Ruby behind this. I mean, there is, but it's all on GitHub servers, so you can't do any of that. So all you can use on a GitHub page is just basic HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and that's about it. There are exceptions to that rule because you can use what are known as static site generators to create your site, and static site generators basically take logic that you write, and it takes maybe markdown files or some sort of text file that has all of your content for your site in it. Then it takes that and it puts it into templates for you. So one of the most common static site builders and the one that GitHub recommends is called Jekyll. And Jekyll is really nice. You can look at the website here. I've used Jekyll a number of times and it integrates really tightly and cleanly with GitHub Pages, which is a huge perk. It allows for quite a bit more complex functionality than you can get out of most other static site generators. That said, I'm not going to be using that today. The site that I'm going to be using in our example, I already built 6 months ago, and I used a static site generator called Eleventy, which is created by a buddy of mine, Zach Leatherman. We've only met a couple times, but he's a super cool dude, and so I really like the static site generator that he built. So we're going to be using this. And that's just to say you can do things with GitHub Pages that GitHub doesn't officially endorse. So we're going to be using Eleventy, and as you'll see, it does require an extra step to use something like this, but I just wanted you guys to know that you're not shoehorned into using exactly what GitHub tells you to use. You can use whatever works best for you. So one prerequisite for using GitHub Pages is you have to have a GitHub account, which I do right here. And then I'm going to create a repository to start this out. I'm going to call it web inspect, just like that. I'm kind of surprised I didn't already have this website hosted on GitHub, but I'm glad that I didn't, because I can now show you guys what this process looks like. So web inspect, and then in the description, I'll write something like the official website for Web Inspect Inc. built with. All right, good enough description. Creating a public repository, not adding anything to it, and we click the big green button. Now it's going to give me some instructions for how I can use this, and I am actually going to want this line right here. All the rest of it doesn't really matter. Okay, I'm going to switch over to my command line here, and I've got my folder right here, so I'm going to cd into that folder. Now, as you can see, in my Z shell, it turns these pretty colors whenever I'm in a Git repository, so I can run Git commands in here. I've already got a history of this folder. I basically use Git anytime I'm building anything, so I've already got that, but I don't have it on GitHub. So I'm going to paste that command that GitHub gave me to add my empty repository as an origin, and I'm going to push. And that probably won't work. Git push set upstream origin master. And that should, all right, it looks like the push succeeded. So I'll switch back to my browser now, reload the page, and there are all my files. Once you have your repository on GitHub, it gets pretty easy. We're going to go over to the settings here, and I am going to go to source under GitHub Pages and select the master branch. We will save that, and it'll say your site is ready to be published right here. This is my special URL for my published site. So now if I open that in a new tab, so it doesn't seem to have been built yet. If we go back to the code here, click on commits, it should show us, okay, it looks like it's successfully built. So let's go back. So I think what's going on is that there is no file inside here that GitHub knows how to use as a website. So we have no HTML file in the root of our folder, and that is the problem we're running up against. Now GitHub has some what I would consider kind of odd requirements for GitHub Pages. It basically requires you to have all of your source files in your root directory. And if you don't have that, then you have to kind of work around it in some ways. So I'm going to show you how to do that, because I want to have all of my source files in this repository, and I don't want to create another repository just for the live version. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually create a branch, and we'll put all of the compiled like website files onto that branch. All right, so here's what's going on, guys. Here's my file system. Everything I have inside Web Inspect is right here, but the site itself actually lives in the site folder. This is where all the compiled files go for Eleventy. If I drop this into my web browser, this is the website. It's not working quite right because I don't have it on a server, but that is this website. So what we want to do is we want to create a branch that only contains this site folder. So let's go back to our command line here, and I'll show you how to do that. First of all, you have to create a branch. We're going to call ours GH Pages and start it from the head. And then we can check out that branch just like that. Oh, nope, check out GH Pages. And then what we want to do is very simple. We just go over to Finder here, and we're going to delete everything that is not that site folder. Just delete it all, get rid of it. And then we're going to take all these files, drag them out here, and then delete the site folder. So now what we have done is we have created in this branch only the compiled files. Now if I come to my command line, I can check that. It says they're all deleted, but we don't have to worry about that because we have all those safely on the other branch. So we'll add all of those changes and we will commit this. Removes all source files, leaves just the compiled files. And that should do it. Now we have to push this to GitHub. And to do that, we have to do git push set upstream origin master. No, not master. We want to use the GH Pages branch. And it looks like that was completed. So now if we go back to our web browser, refresh this, you can see it says we have a new branch here. Now if we switch over to that branch, it should only have the files that we need. It looks like we do still have some hidden files that I didn't delete. We should probably delete those at some point because we don't need those. But for now, this is what we want. So now if we go back to settings and change this to the GH Pages branch, save that, it should say it's ready to be published. We'll go back to the code and see if it's been deployed yet. Go to commits. It looks like it's been deployed. So go refresh this and it's horribly broken. So guys, the problem is I am actually using a CSS file from another project because we don't have a domain name here. It's using, instead of doing css/main.css like that, it's actually grabbing it from another repository of mine like that. So that's why this looks so gross. There is a way that we can fix this, a pretty easy way we can fix this, which is by giving this its own domain name, which is another thing that I wanted to walk you guys through anyway. So let's jump into that. After we add this custom domain here, and according to GitHub's documentation, you are supposed to add it here before you set up your actual domain name. So after we do that, now we want to go to our domain name. I bought my domain name through Hover, which is a service that I personally use and recommend. And we're going to come in here, we're going to change these A-name records. And if we come to GitHub's documentation here, they have all of the IP addresses that we need. So I'm just going to copy this, and we want to edit the @ record, which just means an empty record. We change that to that, save it. We'll add another A record, @ again, add that record. And just keep doing this until you have all 4 of these records in here. All right, that's all our A records set up. I also have this star. I think I can just delete this, presumably. All right, so that's all set up. Now, these domain changes do take a while to propagate throughout the earth, throughout all the servers out there that control these domain names. So we're gonna have to wait for a little while. As GitHub says, it might take over a full day to update. And they give an option here for debugging. And then once all of that propagates, we should have a fully working site hosted at GitHub Pages. And it'll look just like this. If I refresh, I can't tell if it's switched or not. I don't think it has yet, but it should soon. It'll look just like this. And we'll be running off of GitHub Pages with built-in redundancy. So guys, that is how you host through GitHub Pages. That is how you set it up in a nutshell. And we actually did kind of do it the complicated way because we wanted to use a site that was not, quote unquote supported. We wanted to use 11D instead of Jekyll. If you use Jekyll, it can be even easier than that. Or if you just use static HTML, CSS files. So it's a great tool to have in your tool belt, guys, and something that I have used many times and will continue to use into the future, I'm sure. So thanks for joining us here today, guys. I hope you're able to use this knowledge in the future, and we'll be back with more videos soon. Thanks, guys, and remember, never stop learning. Bye!